Am I the asshole for allowing my brother-in-law to be thrown out of my house on Christmas after he insulted my brother who has Down syndrome? My hubby, male 40, and I, female 35, have been together for 10 years, married for 5. We bought a fixer-upper 2 years ago and finally completed upgrades and repairs just in time to host Christmas. Both sides of the family came. My parents, my brother Frank, male 30, and his girlfriend, now fiancée Lila, female 29, and my hubby's parents and his brother Todd, male 32. Since it's relevant, I'll mention that my brother Frank has Down syndrome. He also graduated from high school and college. He has his BA in early childhood development. He also has his own apartment and his own car. He works full-time as a preschool teacher, and his job loves him. I have frickin' amazing parents, and when Frankie was born, their attitude was, you'll do as much as you're encouraged to do. And we all invested heavily in helping Frank be all he can be, which is a lot. I've never felt left out or forgotten by my folks, by the way. They worked really hard to make sure we both had a great childhood. My hubby and Frank are total bros. Frank was his best man in our wedding, and after being friends with Frankie for a few years, he switched his job as a high school English teacher to a special education teacher. It required some extra schooling, but my dude loves his job so much now, and he is so happy. So obviously, Frank is popular in the family. At the party, I knew my hubby and Frank were up to something because they were whispering a lot and grinning. Right before dessert, Frank stood up and talked about how this year has been the best of his life. He said he wished he could keep his life this way forever. My hubby pipes up with, "If you like it, then you better put a ring on it," and tossed Frank a box. He got down on one knee and asked Lila to marry him. She, of course, said heck yes. It was so touching, and honestly, everyone was crying and hugging, and so excited. I noticed my brother-in-law Todd wasn't smiling, and he looked pretty irritated. Todd is single, probably because he enjoys Andrew Tate so much, and he and my hubby have never been close. When we all stopped hugging and sat down, Todd muttered, "Finally," under his breath. Everyone heard it though, because he absolutely meant us to. I asked if there was a problem, and he said, and I quote, "I'm not that interested in celebrating two R-worded people pretending they can have a real life." I almost caught a charge because I about punched him. Frank just laughed at him and asked, "Still single, huh?" Which made everyone laugh. Todd stepped towards him and my hubby told him to sit down and shut up. He also told him he's an embarrassment. Todd got mad and told my hubby that the embarrassment was how he pretended that Frank and Lila are actually functioning adults. At that, my hubby stood up, yanked Todd's chair out, and told him to get the hell out of our house. He told him that he didn't want to see his face or hear his voice until he sincerely apologized to Frank and Lila. Todd started to refuse to leave, so I got my phone out and told him that I was going to call the cops to escort him out if he refused to leave on his own. He's been in Dutch with the cops a few times for drunk and disorderly and assault, so that got him to peel out quick. Hubby's parents were clearly embarrassed by Todd's behavior, and they left a few minutes later, after apologizing to Frank and Lila. We told them that they were more than welcome to stay, but they left anyhow. This morning, I woke up to a bunch of texts from Todd demanding that I talk to my hubby and fix this. I told him no and blocked him. Then my mother-in-law called and asked me to talk to hubby. I was kind about it, but I said no. I told her it's between hubby and Todd, and I respected my husband's feelings. She got upset and said that her family is getting torn apart and I'm allowing it. I told her again I was sorry, but that Todd is totally responsible for this, and she needed to take it up with him. She hung up crying. I still don't think hubby and I were wrong here at all, but I truly feel like my mother-in-law and those tears definitely got to me. But I refuse to let my brother and best friend be abused in my home. Am I the asshole here? Additional information from OP. My mother-in-law has called twice, begging me to interfere and force a discussion. Her tears break my heart, but Todd is just so shitty that I'm honestly relieved that I might never have to deal with him again. In the comments, "Not the asshole. Your brother-in-law sure has his mum wrapped around his little finger though. Embarrassing for her, I'm sure, but do not even fleetingly consider getting on Team Coddle Todd. Make no mistake, this is not just about your brother being insulted, it's also about trying to trick you into participating in that insult through minimizing and peacemaking. Curious to know whether Todd and their mum called your husband directly first, because if not, that's a double black mark against his family and may explain why your husband was so immediate in his willingness to call Todd out at the time. He might have been annoyed by this dynamic often over the years. OP says, "Nope, they just called me because I'm a known soft touch. My hubby has zero patience with their nonsense. Todd is definitely the golden child, but I sense they realize they bet on the wrong horse, so to speak." Another commenter says, "Your brother-in-law is a jerk because your mother-in-law enables it. Not the asshole. Frank sounds hilarious." OP says, "Frank is the smartass to end all smartasses. He's hysterical. What's so cool about my brother is that he can genuinely poke like that without being mean or ugly. I love him so much, honestly. I feel like getting him for a brother was the best gift the universe ever gave me." Another commenter says, "You're not the asshole. Is your mother-in-law asking Todd to apologize?" And OP says, "I can't imagine she has. When he got a DV charge for slapping his ex-fiancée, his mum blamed her for being difficult. We spend very little time with my in-laws. I suspect there's going to be even less now." And another commenter says, "You said that you truly like your mother-in-law. Why? She excused DV and ableism. She is not a good person. Why do you feel bad for her? Because she cried? Is crying enough to excuse her behavior? You're not the asshole for not helping excuse his actions, but I'm wondering why you think your mother-in-law is so great." OP says, "Excellent question. She's always been controlling, but she's sweet and delicate about it, if that makes sense. My husband kept our contact minimal, so I'd see her on her best behavior. The only time that I didn't was when Todd got arrested and she blamed the woman that he slapped. She's difficult and it was just a slap. We didn't see them for almost 2 years after that, until father-in-law developed cancer. Mother-in-law knew how grossed out we were about her defending Todd, and she apologized profusely, saying she was wrong and that Todd knows she was ashamed of him. My hubby called her apology a load of crap later, but I bought it, I guess. Probably because in my family, if someone apologized, they meant it. But when father-in-law got sick, we reconnected, and now here we are. Let me assure you though, my tolerance for her is gone for good. I feel like an idiot for falling for it all." Yeah, your brother-in-law's an asshole, and there's nothing wrong with Frank existing as he is. There's nothing wrong with Frank marrying Lila. I don't know what he means by, pretending like they're real adults. That's just not correct in this day and age. Sorry to say that people with disabilities are still able to function as normal adults. It doesn't mean that they don't have fulfilling lives. It doesn't mean that they are the R word, like he said to them. I don't know. If I was you, I would distance myself from Todd. He doesn't sound like someone that deserves to be in your life, and I genuinely would serve your mother-in-law an ultimatum being like, if you're ever coming to events with us again, or if we're ever going to something with you, Todd is not going to be involved. Not the asshole. And now, onto the update, 4 hours later. Todd is on Reddit and loves the Am I the Arsehole group. He talked about it at Christmas. That's pretty much why I posted this. He has seen this, and my mother-in-law called and asked me to remove it. I said no. She says that this is mean. I told her Todd is meaner and that I'm done. I told her the post stays up and that I'm never asking hubby to meet with them again. I'm the asshole, I know, for encouraging my hubby to have contact with them. And I've apologized. Frank's opinion on all of this is that he hasn't wasted time on asses in the past, and he's not starting now. I apologize to him too for inviting my idiot brother-in-law in the first place. Lila is as snarky as Frank, and she told me no cake for him. Lol, she's the best. I'm maid of honor, so I'm working hard to come up with ways to make this proposal nonsense up to her. Someone said this couldn't be true because no one would act like we did after Todd's comment. My response is that you don't know Frank. I think you suspect he's childish and throws fits when he's upset. You couldn't be more wrong. His stated attitude about people like Todd is that he refuses to act stupid just because someone else chooses to. As for everything else, yes, my hubs is the best. I had a ridiculously privileged childhood, and I know that, and am grateful. In the comments, Party SR says, quote, Todd got mad and told my hubby that the embarrassment was how he pretended that Frank and Lila are actually functioning adults. The guy was projecting so hard. Todd got so mad because someone he thinks of as less than himself has been able to surpass him. A stable, independent career, a car, and now he's getting a wife. Yeah, he was projecting hard and ultra mad because he probably realizes he's jealous. Congratulations to Frank and Lila. I think what you wrote is exactly what Todd's problem was, and based on the way his mother tried to brush the whole thing under the rug, I would guess that she's been enabling him his whole life. The mother is having a hard time accepting her favorite child as a failure, and that it's all her fault for coddling him. Bad parenting creates awful adults wins again. You can always connect a terrible person back to how they were raised and the failures of their parents. Well, yeah, but ultimately Todd is, theoretically, an adult and responsible for his behavior and actions. Shifting the blame just removes the responsibility from the person able to change it. I agree with that. The mother definitely plays a role in how Todd has become who he is right now, but she's not solely responsible for that. Todd is an adult. Todd has had the ability to be better, and he is responsible for his actions and behaviors. In these moments that he has shown you who he has owned his shitty persona. He has owned the damage that he wants to cause upon other people that he thinks of as less than him. Todd does not deserve anyone's time of day. Todd deserves nothing. Todd deserves less than nothing. I do think he is jealous, and I don't think that he's self-aware enough to realize that he is jealous. Hateful individuals like that don't deserve our attention. I'm pretty happy with how this story resolved. It sounds like Frank and Lila are on to bigger and better things, and that this hasn't even affected them. So thank God, and thank you for the story, OP. I very much appreciate that. Our next post is by user TemporaryTry737, titled, Am I the asshole here for telling my husband Happy Father's Day today because it felt like I was doing it all alone today? This morning, I woke up early to order myself coffee so he could take our son to pick it up and surprise me. Then they went to the grocery store and thoughtfully picked out my favorite breakfast and came home. My husband made half of the breakfast and then asked me to make the other half. No problem. He acknowledged that he was asking me to do the work and still taking credit for the benefit of our kids' experiences and memories. It was no problem until he went upstairs to go to the bathroom, and after 45 minutes, I walked upstairs to check on him and he was asleep in our bed. He slept the entire afternoon. Later that day, I was doing the absolute mountain of dishes, my third load for the day, that's another story, and he asked me to make a grocery list. I asked if he could please make the list because I'm in the middle of doing the dishes, and further tried to coax him by using Mother's Day in a playful way. I really didn't want to drop what I was doing to look in the fridge that he was already standing right in front of to tell him what we needed for dinner. He knows what the ingredients are. He could easily look himself, but he insisted that I help him. I was super frustrated, so I took a deep breath, washed and dried my hands, and then opened the fridge and started telling him what we need. He could sense my frustration and called me on it. I explained that I was really hoping that he could make a list himself just this once because I was in the middle of doing the dishes. I explained that when I make a grocery list, I just look at what we have and write down what we don't have, and I didn't understand why he needed my help. He started talking over me to say that if I had a problem making a grocery list with him, I should have just told him. I told him that I did communicate that with him. He doubled down and told me that I need to learn some patience. I smiled and said, Happy Father's Day, because it was the nicest thing that I could think to say. That completely set him off. He went off on me, refusing to get ingredients to make our dinner, bought dinner for only himself and our kids, and has been giving me the silent treatment for over an hour. He says that I went too far. Am I the asshole here? In the comments, Winternin says, "Not the asshole. Your husband is, though. Let me guess, he doesn't help much, if at all, on other days." And OP replies, "Correct. My frustration today was the same frustration that I have any other day, but the Happy Father's Day comment I made was just all I could say to prevent myself from saying, 'Go love yourself' in that moment." How many years have you wasted on this guy? How many more years are you going to spend teaching your kids that this right here is the relationship that they want to have with their future partners? Don't you deserve better? If you can't conceive of better for yourself, what about them? How many years has OP been wanting to say, "Go love yourself"? Honestly, that's what she should be saying. Why is she wasting time trying to spare his feelings when he's an absolute dick? No, ma'am. You grab your purse and go to the salon, cafe, / wherever you like, have the blowout later, but do not allow yourself to become the maid for an asshole. So I skimmed your post history, and I don't think your priority should be on whether you're the asshole or whatever. Your husband is abusive, you are in danger, and your children are traumatized already. You need to start working towards escape and thinking about safety, not your abuser's feelings. I know you think you can't leave right now, but you should at least start working towards it. Your children are learning right now that abusive relationships are okay. Back up to the post, there is an edit. Wow, I didn't realize that I was going to wake up to so much to read. Thank you for all of your feedback. I've been enjoying my self-brewed coffee this morning and taking in your responses. I have a lot to look over and think about. I know divorce is the obvious answer. Edit 2. No, divorce isn't the obvious answer for this specific incident. Edit 3. I mean, the idea of divorce is not solely based on this one specific incident. Several people have commented thinking everyone is jumping to divorce based on this one situation. It is more complex than this one day. No, I'm not using Reddit as a poll for whether or not to leave my marriage. Today I learned how to make Reddit paragraphs. Both our mothers are dead, unfortunately. Our children are 6 and under. It is common for parents to help and facilitate the day. 6-year-olds and toddlers can't be responsible for celebrating their parents. I didn't expect anything from him. I know it's just a Hallmark consumerism holiday. People who have commented are correct in saying that this incident is just representative of every other day, but magnified by the fact that Mother's Day was a particularly shitty day to choose to be particularly shitty. I feel like maybe I was the asshole for making the petty comment. I am neurodivergent, and sometimes I have trouble picking up on if I did something wrong that I maybe didn't realize was wrong to say or do. I appreciate all of the anecdotes of your strength and ability to move forward after leaving an exhausting marriage. It is inspiring. Edit/update 4. Since Sunday, I've not lifted a single finger for baby Sinclair, my internal nickname for him. Unless it directly impacts our kids, every time he requests my help or to do something for him that he can do for himself, I just use my absolute sweetest voice and let him know that he doesn't need my help, and I believe in his ability to complete the task himself. Then I smile and walk away. The third time I did this, he said that I was making him uneasy. I couldn't help but to laugh out loud, which made him announce that he felt even more uneasy. I know it wasn't kind, but I calmly told him that he is a pathetic human. I told him I'm sorry that it has to be me, but someone in his life needs to tell him to grow the fuck up. I told him that I care about him, and I love him, but I will not tolerate being treated with disrespect even one more day. He said I am abusive. The actual audacity. I spared the divorce conversation. For safety, and because I've said many times before that I want to leave, and financially it isn't possible right now. Side note, I tried to leave last year because he was making me feel unsafe, and his behavior was erratic. I went to the emergency room in a mental breakdown, and I told them about the abuse, which they noted in detail on my file. They asked about any plans to escape, and I told them that I had it covered, and answered their questions about my plan. I had been planning for our escape for a year leading up to this. They told me they had to document the reported abuse in my file. I asked them to check my chart to make sure that it's not tied to his account. They looked at it in front of me and said they made sure that he wasn't on my emergency contacts or attached to my chart in any way, but then guess who got an email with my chart notes detailing his abuse and my exit plan before I even got home? I had to cool things down and start over with a new plan that I kept entirely to myself. At this point, though, he knew I had saved up money to leave, so most of my savings was depleted within a couple of months. I eventually left with our kids with far less savings, and it didn't take long for me to realize that I couldn't sustain the cost of my original bills, as they were still in my name, and new bills, in addition to legal assistance and the overall cost of starting over. Our leaving caused him to spiral, and he went back to therapy. Soon after, we started to dip our toes into visiting each other, mostly because I didn't want to leave our kids with him. We stuck to outdoor public activities as a family. He's always been able to wear me down and talk me out of a divorce, and this ended up no differently. Even though I know I'm not an anomaly, I felt ashamed and like a complete failure for going back. Surprisingly, he never actually changed. Sarcasm. End of side note. Anyway, back to the present day, I began to grey rock to throw off his cycle of attempting to rope me back into the argument from the other day. I have calmly listened to him gush over his love for our family and how much he loves and appreciates me and thinks I am an amazing mom. He says he loves me, but all I hear in my head is his voice screaming fucking bitch at me. It all sounds so obviously disingenuous. I told him that his words mean literally nothing while his behavior is the same. It's like saying waffles has legs. It sounds unbelievable, and if I don't see it with my own eyes, I'm not believing it. I told him regardless of if in the end we stay together or not, we need to go back to therapy as a duo and separately. I told him he needs to take steps today to move forward with therapy and treating his mental health appropriately. He agreed, but no evidence of walking waffles yet. I'm surprised at my ability to completely refuse to do anything that he can do himself. I'm more surprised that he's actually doing the tasks himself. I've tried this before, and he ultimately bullies me into doing the task, but not this time. He keeps complaining about his results in ways that are so juvenile and manipulative, always leaving the impression that if I had just done it for him, it would have been done correctly. I just smile and tell him that he did a good job with the task and tell him that it sounds like he needs more practice and eventually it will become second nature. I'm feeling his attempts to make me miserable, but it is rolling right off of me. At least for now. I cannot express how much I appreciate the support and validation here. I appreciate the married people who shared what their day was like on Sunday and every day as a healthy couple. For those of you who have asked why I'm taking to the internet with this in the first place, I have been isolated from my circle for so long that my relationships no longer exist. I have limited family, period, and no family nearby. My mum is dead, my dad sucks, my siblings mostly suck, I have no friends. I work virtually and don't have friendships with coworkers because we rarely socialize and have opportunities to bond. I don't have opportunities to interact with adults very often. Isn't that the beauty of the internet? Despite my logical brain, years of gaslighting, along with my neurodivergence, have made it sometimes feel impossible to trust my own judgment. If you're offended by me posting this and have taken time to voice your disgust for me and my post, I just want to let you know that I've processed your complaints and directed them to the correct department. Thank you for your feedback. And now, onto the update, 1 month later. A lot has happened since my original post. First, since Mother's Day, he has not shown any sort of attempts for progress. Surprise. He has lost his control and repeatedly called me an effing bitch, and other awesome pet names for his minor irritations towards me. For example, I asked him if he wanted my help bringing in groceries. Apparently, he wanted to do it himself to let me relax, and my offering ruined his plan, so he was essentially throwing an adult version of a tantrum. I explained that it doesn't feel like a genuine gesture because now I'm being yelled at for offering to help? Lol, okay, pal. At one point I became petty, whoops, and told him to use I statements, because that's his go-to therapy speak that he uses on me as a dog whistle during arguments and therapy appointments. He lost his shit, which then made me laugh because I literally do not understand if this is really his perception of reality. I can't take him seriously. I find myself laughing more now than ever, and it's not to mock him, I just can't control my disbelief and don't know how else to cope at this point. Second, I have realized that while I do love and care about him, it is clear that he does not respect me as a person, a mother, or his partner. He doesn't respect our kids. I can't realistically continue living with someone who tries to control my entire life. What kind of life is that to live? I took advice from many comments left on my original post and reached out to friends and family that I had been isolated from. The reception was better than I expected. I didn't expect the hurt that I felt when I found out every single one of them said they wondered if I was in an abusive marriage, but not one of them ever asked me directly when I completely withdrew. I don't blame them, but it was hard to ignore the pain that I felt from that. This was also the reason that I never reached out to anyone when things got really bad. It seemed like they have their own lives to worry about, and clearly weren't concerned about my absence. A couple of the people that I reached out to were lifelong friends that I had to formally end friendships with when I started dating my husband because of his jealousy, and I never got to mourn those friendships. It felt like a piece of me that had been broken began to heal. Anyway, it was a positive step because some of my family members were relieved that I opened up to them, and now I don't feel so isolated and alone. So thank you to everyone who encouraged me to do that. I'm not sure what my next steps are, but I'm feeling more confident in my path forward. I do know that from here on out, I'm doing whatever the hell I want, and don't worry, as safely as I can. Thank you. In the comments, Dawn Shakar says, I'm glad for you. I'd like to point something out. Some of these friends who didn't reach out when you withdrew may not have known how to do it, or were afraid that you would reject them. I'm sure they're genuinely glad that you're reaching out again. Give them a chance to be your friends. Someone replies to them, sorry, but I'm frickin' sick of people like OP pretending like they would have taken it well, or even decently if friends had actually asked that. And OP says, I'm not pretending that I would have taken it well. I even said I don't blame them. I understand from their perspective it would have been extremely tricky. I understand that I am the one who drifted away from them. I understand. I can see a situation logically and feel pain at the same time. Edit, I think the pain that I felt really had nothing to do with my friends and family, and everything to do with the fact that I felt like I was crazy for so long. I thought everyone thought he was a great person. My pain was partly disappointment in myself for not seeing what everyone else saw. And Haunting Look says, I had a question from your last post. Did the hospital on purpose send him your file notes? And can you sue? And OP says, they specifically informed me that he was not attached to my chart, but they did not remove him, and instead, he got my after-visit summary sent right to his email after the visit, which contained all of the details. And on to the newest update, 246 days later. 246 days ago, I posted asking, am I the asshole here for telling my husband Happy Father's Day today because it felt like I was doing it all alone today? I knew that I was in an abusive marriage, but I was stuck. I continued to be stuck until it escalated beyond return. I wanted to update to show how things can escalate. The very next month after my original post, he pushed me down backwards on the stairs. The month after that, he started threatening his life if I didn't stay with him. The month after that, he started looking into buying a gun. And the month after that, he was physically extremely violent to me in front of our kids and emotionally violent towards them. Police were called multiple nights in a row. My kids and I had been staying at someone else's house since mid-November. We left with a weekend's worth of clothes each, toothbrushes, and some of their favorite toys that I could quickly grab. We are starting completely over, and it feels very weird. From my previous post, he drained the savings that I had accumulated to escape with my kids. I'm in the process of finding a new job and have a GFM open as a desperate attempt at leaning on community. As weird and scary as this process has been, I have never felt safer. My kids have never been happier. In the comments, someone asks if OP is in contact with any lawyers. OP says, I have been in contact with the Women's Association here that has legal counsel, but it's limited. Right now I have a protection order that is valid for the next few months and continuing to work towards officially divorcing and an official parenting plan. Corfers74 asks, how did he get access to your account, and was there no way to get it back in the divorce, since you can prove he took everything when he was only entitled to half? And OP says, I don't know about getting it back in the divorce. I would need to talk to a lawyer about that, and I'm still in the process of doing that through a non-profit. Alternative Stretch says, you're saying the emergency room, as in the hospital staff, questioned you about the abuse and wanted to make sure that you had an exit plan and know what it was, but then while you were driving home from said emergency room, they had already emailed everything that you said directly to your husband? Something seems off here. If they did do that, you know that's very illegal, right? Like, that's a HIPAA violation, which is pretty damn serious. If they did that, why haven't you reached out to a lawyer yet? That would be my first step going forward. And OP says, the system automatically emailed him my visit notes. We specifically talked about it during my visit, and they specifically said he was no longer attached to my chart, but he ended up getting the chart notification and detailed chart notes nonetheless. Beach Polini says, he actively tried to kill her twice in the 2 months directly after that post, and she still didn't get out for another 5 months after that. Domestic abuse is so scary. I'm so glad that she and the kids made it out alive. Getting by is going to be rough, but at least now they have a chance. I had a particularly bad year with my ex where he shot at me 2 different times and once chased me through the woods on our property with an axe. I had to hide in a tree until his friend was able to talk him down. Took me another 2 years to leave. Like, it didn't enter my head that I should leave. Yes, I know how bad it sounds, but I'm so numb to my past that it's like, whatever. I did leave 15 years ago, and I have an amazing life now. Bloody hell. As soon as she said that she was laughing at him and grey-rocking him, I knew this guy was going to attempt to kill her. This kind of man-baby psychopath cannot deal with being laughed at and condescended by a woman. So scary. I knew from the moment he went off at Happy Father's Day. Like, there are just some things that when someone goes off about it, you know it's going to go all the way bad in the future. The only thing you can't tell is how fast. And that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, let me know what you thought about it down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.